your kind of company.
Tonight on CTV3 News, a more in-depth look at the sugar industry license to import and export sugar regulations 2023. We speak to the experts who say the new legislation does not target BSI-ESR. Can the sugar manufacturer be forced to pay out fair trade premiums to the associations? Ahead of the ICJ ruling on the Belize-Guatemala territorial and maritime dispute, the EU provides financing to support confidence-building measures at the adjacency zone. And the Guinea Grass female football team takes the Bishops Cup Championship. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Monday, May 22nd, 2023.
Special guest in the audience tonight, legendary record executive, Mr. Clive Davis.
My voice is gone. What? You start the show tonight. No talking back. I'm your mother.
There's a boy I know. He's the one I dream of.
What's your name again?
Whitney Elizabeth Houston.
Wait, y'all, look at it. It's on. It's on. Listen. If he really loves me.
My dream, sing what I want to sing, be how I want to be.
I say a prayer with every heartbeat.
Reach as big an audience as I can.
Common criticism of you, your music isn't black enough.
Look, I don't know how to sing black, and I don't know how to sing white either. I know how to sing.
I might have just heard the greatest voice of her generation.
Maybe.
Maybe. It's got to have a hook.
A hook?
Yeah.
I'll give it a hook.
And now, the hottest match of the evening. Get ready for action! Here they come. Amazing! They're unstoppable, unbeatable. They have him on the ropes. The heat rises to the top. 1, 2, and 3. They're on fire. Chiladas. Fire up the taste of Belize with the new Chiladas crunchy tortilla taco chips in its hot chili flavor. Fiery habanero brings the heat. They're on fire. Chiladas. From Snackers, done right, done here.
I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion. Something that was real. Something that they could see and touch.
Humans and dinosaurs can't coexist. We created an ecological disaster.
Ellie Sattler.
Alan Grant.
You didn't come out all this way just to catch up now, did you?
You coming or what?
That's another plane, right?
Not exactly.
Don't move.
appreciating the reality of aging hospital infrastructure countrywide, while bearing in mind the increasing risk of hurricanes and floods, this UP administration has ramped up efforts to secure capital for new hospital infrastructure to be established in strategic locations. Earlier this year, we were most pleased to secure a $32 million grant from our partner, the Republic of China, Taiwan, to build a new hospital in San Pedro to serve Ambergiski and Kikaka. $32 million. Again, the UDP, they claim they put it into their budget for about 3 years, boasting that they will build the San Pedro Hospital. It was never built. It is going to be built by the People's United Party government.
Good evening, with your news, also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. In Friday's sitting of the House of Representatives, GOB presented the sugar industry license to import export sugar regulations 2023. While there was no debate in the House, the debate continues within the sugar industry with the miller, along with the two of the four farmer associations having expressed opposition to the regulations. As we had mentioned previously, the newly implemented regulations require any entity wishing to export or import sugar into Belize to obtain a license from the Sugar Industry Control Board, SICB. Today, we had a sit-down with Sugar Industry Control Board Chairman Marcus Osorio and the Controller of Supplies in the Supplies Control Unit, Lennox Nicholson, who delved into more details on the new regulations and its benefits to the overall sugar industry.
The Sugar Industry Act deal with all matters having to do with that industry, from the cultivation of cane, correct, Mr. Osorio, to its harvesting, its processing into sugar, and it also makes mention of its export and import. And what happens is that currently all the other aspects have been handled under the Sugar Industry Act, and then the licensing of the imports and exports is tucked away in another corner with another agency, right, with, as supplies control.
Go ahead.
Right? So we believe that it is much better being integrated into the Sugar Industry Act as opposed to just having supplies control deal with that aspect. That way, we will have the Sugar Industry Act, which is specific to that industry, manage all aspects of that product through its entire supply and distribution chain. The other thing that we think is an improvement is that under the existing arrangement, myself as the controller of supplies have full latitude in deciding on import licenses, for instance, and full discretion in approving the export licenses. There's no mechanism for consultation with any other party or any other entity, right? So there's this concentration of power in the hands of the controller of supplies, which is not an ideal situation to have. Under the Sugar Industry Act mechanism, there's a role for the SICB, which is the entity that has overall responsibility for the development of that and operations of that industry in terms of regulation. So we feel that that is another improvement. The other aspect has to do with access to expertise. I am not trained or have any kind of expertise in the sugar industry. Right. So when I am there assessing an application for an import license, we need help from people who are more versed in these matters.
The decision on the issuance of licenses, according to Chairman of the SICB, Marcos Osorio, will fall on an entire team of stakeholders.
We will have an internal team of comprised of myself as the chairman. We will also have a very integrated participation from supplies control through Mr. Lennox and his team. And it is us that will look at reviewing, because also something very important here is that all information must be kept with the highest confidentiality, because it requires that the applicant submit certain documentation, and those need to be kept as confidential as possible. It cannot be, first, let's say, public information. It's for the review and for the approval of the license. And as we see it, we think that once the applicant provides all that is required, will there be any reason to not approve or issue a license? Once you are complying, you will get your license. Those are provisions that are requirements for you to be able to get your license. So, and also I think what is important here is that during the consultations, and I think it's important to mention that there was quite an amount of sessions and meetings carrying out the consultations on the regulations. And I must say that an important component that was addressed, the Miller had told us from day one, the minister has too much power on the regulations. So as a result of that, the powers of the minister were transferred to the SICB. So to remove that part of where the minister decides, which I think one of the major issues was not necessarily minister. I think some of us have difficulties with our vision. And I think that when we see the word minister, we were looking Jose Abelardo May. All right? And the act doesn't speak of the name of the minister. Its reference is general. So in that respect, that was addressed, and I think an important addition in the review process and the consultation process is that a tribunal was also included in the process. So if any applicant feels that they are not being treated right, or their rights are not being respected, they are in their full right to seek a hearing with the tribunal, and that will be addressed. So I think the regulations are not as hard as it's being described by certain parties.
While a major concern raised by BSI-ASR has been the disclosure of private business information required within the new regulations, the experts say it is simply a mechanism placed to ensure fairness for farmers.
This is where the disclosure element comes in. The requirement for the miller to disclose contracts, for instance, terms of sale, volumes, how much is being sold under fair trade terms, and things like that. The consultation revealed that the stakeholders, particularly farmers, the ones that we met with, because some declined to actually participate in the consultations, and that is fine. That is their right to participate or not. They are saying that they believe in this adage of sleeping with your own eyes. They want to see, right? And if it turns out that through this disclosure that what the mill has been saying to them all along is correct, then fine. Everybody can sing Kumbaya and we move forward. But they feel that they have a right and a responsibility to their membership to ensure that they do their due diligence to ensure that they are getting what they are rightfully due. And that is what the regulation seeks to do in the disclosure element.
Las regulaciones que ahora ya son ley es para el beneficio de la industria. Necesitamos asegurar el futuro de esta industria y en ese proceso, pues las regulaciones es uno de los elementos que va a ir contribuyendo a este proceso de asegurar el futuro de la industria. Y creo que algo muy importante y de suma importancia es que esto va a beneficiar a todos los cañeros de la industria. También va a beneficiar a los manufactureros. ¿Por qué? Al tener ahora, proveer la información como debe de ser, los cañeros van a tener la confianza, porque creo que algo muy importante es que hay una gran desconfianza en lo que reporta el ingenio, y los cañeros no confían esos números. Entonces, las regulaciones va a proveer de que una vez que cumplan con los requisitos para conseguir su licencia para exportar, eso va a dar tranquilidad y va a regresar la confianza de los cañeros hacia el ingenio. Entonces, va a beneficiar a todos, a los cañeros, al industrial, y es para la mejora de nuestra industria yendo al futuro.
Aside from the application of a yearly exporting license, the process to export sugar will remain the same, according to Nicholson.
Criticism has been that somehow these regulations are discriminatory. The fact of the matter is that these regulations are applicable to all 5 exporters of sugar that are on record. And you notice I said 5, not 2, right? Most people are taken aback when they hear that, because the fact of the matter is that most people have this impression that it's only ASR and Santander that do exportation of sugar, and that is not the case. And so what it does is it provides a vetting mechanism for us to know who we're giving license to engage in a particular activity. The shipment permits, which is for every shipment that goes in out of the country, that will remain with supplies control. Because one of the complaints was that it's burdensome and you're including another layer of bureaucracy. So what we have agreed to is that currently entities apply for export licenses on our platform called BELAPS. They have a username, a password, everything is done electronically. You will use your same username, same password, same platform. So everything that you have been doing for all these years to apply for export licenses for each shipment is what you will continue doing. There is no additional burden on you. There is an attempt to suggest that there is this huge documentary burden that every time an exporter wants to export sugar, they have to now meet. Not so. For the shipment, every shipment that they send, it is pretty much the same thing that they have always been doing. Where the additional disclosure and the additional filing comes in is when they're applying for the annual license, for the operator's license. It is at that stage that we want us to give us everything. Put the cards on the table. You only need to go through that once per year.
Right.
It's not like you're going to do that every month, every week, and so on.
Or every time you export.
No, that is not the case. So that is something that I think when they make mention of it, they give the impression that every time they want to send out a shipment of sugar, they have to come with this box of paperwork and take it to SICB. And that is not the case. One-time operator's license for the year, you do your filing, you make your disclosures, submit the appropriate information to the regulator, you get your annual license to operate for a year. And for every shipment after that, you do what you have been doing from ever since.
In the meantime, however, the exportation of sugar currently being undertaken will not be interrupted, as exporters will be given a period of time to complete the process of applying for the new license.
El día de hoy se va a notificar a todos los exportadores de que necesitan ahora aplicar para su licencia de exportación. Les vamos a dar un espacio de 2 semanas para someter su aplicación con toda la documentación que se requiere, y esperamos que en vuelta de posiblemente 2 semanas más tarde, lo más, estaremos ya entregando la licencia, siempre y cuando hayan cumplido con los requisitos en la aplicación. Mientras tanto, la intención de ninguna manera es detener las exportaciones. Las exportaciones van a continuar como han sido hasta ahora. Y ya cuando cumplamos ese tiempo, de ahí en adelante el que no tiene su licencia simplemente no va a poder exportar. Entonces, lo que quiero decir con esto es que va a haber un periodo de transición para movernos del sistema que existe ahora al nuevo sistema que ya es. Y solamente es esa parte de la licencia, Cami, nada más, porque como mencionaba Lennox, las exportaciones, los shipments, cada exportación que se hace, esos procedimientos y requisitos continúan igual, nada cambia ahí.
Another main concern raised by BSI-ASR is the fact that the regulations make provisions that will now require them to work as intermediary between the buyers and the local farmers in terms of collecting fair trade premiums and distributing those to farmer associations. This specific clause, according to chairman of the SICB, Marcos Osorio, is stipulated within the fair trade standards which the local sugar industry operates under.
Los estándares de comercio justo proveen dos opciones. Uno es pago del comprador de azúcar Fair Trade directo a la organización de productores y también provee la otra manera que es del comprador al que está exportando el azúcar. Okay. En este caso, BSI. Los cañeros no exportan azúcar, Cami. So, en todo caso, pienso yo, los flujos de los fondos deben de darse a través del exportador, porque ninguna asociación exporta azúcar, hasta donde nosotros sabemos, ¿verdad? Entonces, y en el estándar de comercio justo menciona to the conveyor, y en este caso BSI sería el conveyor. Entonces, las regulaciones ahora proveen ¿para qué? Para asegurar de que cada asociación, siempre y cuando estén certificados, reciban su premio justamente. Como está ahora, Titan Lyle es el que ha estado pagando directo a las organizaciones de productores. Y no podemos o exigir a Titan Lyle que le pague a la asociación de productores, pero sí lo podemos hacer a través de BSI, porque BSI es el que exporta. BSI colecta los fondos del azúcar que se vende. ¿Por qué los compradores de azúcar BSI no les pide, sabes qué, pagarle su porción directo a los cañeros? Es algo similar. Es un beneficio que viene sumado al precio del azúcar que estamos exportando.
Even as it is described as unnecessary and burdensome, these regulations, according to Controller of Supplies Lennox Nicholson, are being implemented to ensure accountability, even as BSI-ASR contends that there is no need to regulate sugar, which is mostly destined for the export market.
One thing I know is that when it comes to numbers, your point of reference changed the entire dynamic. And we addressed this matter in the board meeting
Yes.
that looked at the regulations. You see, 10% of all sugar they produce is consumed locally. Fine. But locally, we don't eat raw sugar. We eat direct consumption sugar. Right? Now, direct consumption sugar, based on what they had told me when we visited, was about half of their production. Right? So, when you have to express that figure as a percentage of the direct consumption sugar, not the raw sugar, so your 10% automatically goes to 20%. Right? Then we drill down further and we say, what about white sugar? Marcos, what percentage of the white sugar is consumed locally?
Is 10,000 tons, which is 10% of the production.
Yeah, but how much of the white
that's
sugar?
100%, because that's the only production of plantation white.
So
for
we
local
gone
market.
from 10 to 20 to 100.
Okay.
And then when we look at the brown sugar now, you tell us, okay, it's a very small percentage. And they showed us a lot of sugar. And I said to them, but I don't know how much of that sugar that you showed me you're contractually obligated to ship abroad.
Okay.
So This is where the regulation makes sense and it's holistic because you will have to tell us that information. And then we can always have that conversation at another time in terms of the point of reference and that matter. But you see how we go from 10% to 20% to 100%, right? So it is easy for us to play cute with numbers. And when you just throw that 10%, and to somebody who may not be as versed in these matters, they grab onto it and say, boy, this don't make no sense. Exactly. But the devil is always in the details, and we have an obligation to find the devil and deal with him.
And if the matter is challenged, Osorio says they are ready for the face-off in the courts.
BSI tiene hecho challenge 9 secciones del Sugar Act. Attorney General Ministry, we have all the confidence that we have a strong case for that demand from BSI when that day comes at the Supreme Court. Right. BSI is in their full right to challenge a section of the regulations, the entire set of regulations. They are in their right. And if it comes to be, I know we are ready, along with the Ministry of Attorney General, to put the defense forward. We are not afraid.
In conjunction with the Organization of American States, OAS, the European Union has agreed to provide 1.5 million euros or 3.26 million Belize dollars for the next 18 months to support confidence-building measures in the adjacency zone between Belize and Guatemala ahead of the International Court of Justice ruling on the case. On Friday, a delegation led by the EU's ambassadors in both countries, Marianne Van Steen, Belize, and Thomas Baker, Guatemala, and ambassadors of EU member states Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Spain, along with other representatives, visited the adjacency zone to view the activities financed by the European Union and announce new support from the EU. The new EU-funded project seeks to support the political diplomatic process and the OAS office in the adjacency zone in implementing that is, conflict prevention and preventative diplomacy activities. In addition to the ongoing EU support, European Union member states, including Italy and Spain, are also providing financial support to the OAS operations in the adjacency zone between Belize and Guatemala. We recognize that peace and security are essential for sustainable development and regional stability. This is why we remain committed to continuing our support for the implementation of confidence-building measures in the adjacency zone between Belize and Guatemala while awaiting the outcome of the International Court of Justice ruling, said Ambassador Van Steen. The OAS office in the adjacency zone has played a key role in strengthening dialogue and coordination between the institutions and communities in Guatemala and Belize. Working towards a common goal is the best way to prevent conflicts and build peace together. The EU will continue supporting the important work of the OAS in this area, added Ambassador Baker. During the visit, the delegation met with Ambassador Agustin Espinosa, Special Representative of the OAS Secretary General for Belize and Guatemala Affairs, and Dr. Juan Carlos Amador Hernandez, Director of the OAS Adjacency Zone Office, toured the office facilities and visited the Tamay Centers for Training and Promotion of Peace headquarters at Benquevejo del Carmen, Belize, and Melchor de Mencos, Guatemala. The EU says it upholds a peaceful resolution of the Belize-Guatemala territorial referendum to help the economies, trade, and cooperation in both countries and as a way to enhance security and development in the region. The human body needs a tightly regulated temperature controlling mechanism to function at its best. When this mechanism is overwhelmed or compromised, a person can suffer from heat stroke in hot and humid conditions. In Belize, our tropical humid weather is the ideal formula for persons to suffer from a heat stroke or heat-related conditions. In the following story, reporter Elmer Cornejo visited the professionals to break down what needs to be done to remain cool and safe during the intense high temperatures affecting Belizeans daily.
In a hot environment, evaporation is the main method of heat loss, but it loses effectiveness above a relative humidity of 75%. The human body must maintain adequate temperature to function, otherwise it shuts down and can lead to death. When a person's body becomes excessively heated, its owner may experience a condition known as heat stroke. It is important to know about this condition so that it can be prevented or at least recognized at an early stage, especially during this time of the year when temperatures soar above 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
We have seen especially those people who work in the outdoors, for example, cane cutters who are on the land under the sun working, and people who are doing outdoor activities. Yes, we have seen patients. What's happened with this excessive heat? Our body tends to lose a lot of water and electrolytes, and then we get dehydrated. And with the sun and the heat, we can get the heat stroke. Heat stroke is just the inability of the body to cool down and keep an adequate temperature. And when this happens, certain conditions, as you rightly said, can arise. Anybody can technically experience a heat stroke. Yes, it can be prevented by keeping ourselves well hydrated. With this heat, we need to be drinking a lot of water. It's just a culture that we Belizeans do not tend to drink a lot of water. It is recommended that we drink at least 3 liters of water because we lose through our breathing, we lose through our skin, we lose through our sweats, etc. And if we don't replace that water, then comes the signs of dehydrations, and with this comes the strokes.
Most often, a heat stroke happens when people exercise in very hot and humid weather without drinking enough fluids. But even those who aren't exercising can have a heat stroke. Young children and babies, older individuals, and those with health issues are most likely to be impacted.
When we talk about heat-related illnesses, we are talking about 5 main illnesses. The first is the heat stroke. Second would be the heat exhaustion. Then heat cramps. The other one would be sunburn. Okay, and heat rash. So when it comes to heat stroke, we talk mostly, the signs and symptoms of heat stroke would be, of course, high temperature, body temperature, because heat stroke happens when the body cannot thermoregulate its temperature. Okay, normally the body would cool off by sweating. So in this case, the body cannot regulate the temperature, and the body's temperature tends to increase. Normally, this occurs when the body temperature would be 103 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? And the person would tend to experiment dizziness, headaches, okay, loss of consciousness, all right? So those are the signs of a heat stroke, okay? Then the other one is this heat exhaustion, which the heat exhaustion, I myself have experienced it, and I'm sure most of us have experienced that, is the tiredness, that we just need to cool off at that moment, okay? We need to drink water, we feel dehydrated, and we can get headache as well, a little bit of dizziness, okay? So that is the heat exhaustion. Feel more tired, and it's just the heat there, that's causing all of these things, okay? And we have the heat cramps, which are the spasms, the muscle spasms, okay, but caused by heat, okay? And of course the sunburn. We all know about the sunburn. The more we are exposed to the sun, the higher the risk of sunburn. And then we have the heat rash. All right, heat rash, which occurs mostly on the neck, for example, upper part of the chest. So at the back, so those are the areas where heat rash should normally come out, right? And especially in children. This is seen mostly in children and in infants.
Being exposed to extremely high temperatures for long periods of time for leisure or work can result in severe life-threatening conditions clinically diagnosed as a severe elevation in body temperature with central nervous system dysfunction that often includes combativeness, delirium, seizures, and coma.
When it comes to staying hydrated, then of course we encourage people or everyone to drink lots of water, lots of fluids. Okay. At the same time, we do not recommend sweet drinks or alcohol beverages when the temperature is very hot. Okay. For people doing exercise and those strenuous work, outdoor work, then of course we do recommend those sport drinks. Okay, so those are the ways that we can stay hydrated. I think we've all experienced that, right? Of trying to run towards the fan when we feel very hot, and when the temperature is 90 or above, 90 degrees Fahrenheit or above, and then we put those electric fans in front of us. We can feel that generating waves of hot wind, let's say. All right, and so that is not really recommended. Okay, especially when the temperature is so hot. So that won't help. Okay, that can generate even more the risk not to do these heat-related illnesses. So instead of doing that, it's better to take a bath or a shower, or just put wet compress on your body, okay, just to cool off. To experiment a heat stroke, your body temperature needs to be 100 or above, okay? So it's like fever, no? Fever is 100.4 and above, right? So that's the body temperature. But when you experience that, the difference here between the heat stroke and the heat exhaustion would be the neurological clinical manifestation. All right. So a heat stroke, as I mentioned, the person would be very with headache or dizziness, but mostly would be with a loss of can present loss of consciousness. Okay, so when this happens, of course, we do not recommend to give water or any fluids or anything to by mouth, no, at that moment. Okay, the first thing to do is to bring down the body temperature.
Children left in cars for even short periods of time also risk death by hyperthermia.
That is very important. Okay, to have your pet in a shady area with enough water and the water kept in a shady area. Okay. And very important is not to leave kids in the car, or pets in the car as well, okay? Especially when we are submitted to high temperatures, no? It's very hot outside, and that they are a risk factor already to suffer these heat-related illnesses.
For physical education instructor Didier Putt, making sure students get some exercise is important, but it has to be done under some level of precaution due to the hot weather.
What we do normally is we take 1 hour for these sports, but because of the heat, we're taking precautions where we need to be aware that the kids normally they have lots of energy, but as well they do get exhausted in the physical aspect. And when it comes to the inside the classroom, we notice that the kids already come with one energy low that does affect them in their academic and in the physical. We're trying to have different alternative, have variation in the activities that we do to help them as well, not only in the physical aspect but as well to help them enjoy the nature that we have outside.
Heat stroke occurs because of high external temperatures or physical exertion, leading to motor vehicle-related hyperthermia in children and exertional heat stroke in athletes in hot environments, respectively. During this period of time, everyone is affected, and finding comfort can be a daily task.
Es bastante difícil, muy difícil, pero la necesidad nos hace estar aquí afuera, trabajando.
Su venta, porque usted vende hielo, ¿verdad? Raspado. Entonces, ¿cómo se ve la venta?
Por ahora, digamos, está bien, diría yo. Está bien. Cuando nos llega diciembre, entonces sí, está más baja la venta, pero ahorita se está vendiendo un poco. A pesar de que la economía no anda bastante mal, nosotros vendemos siempre hielo. Es lo más barato que hay, la gente lo compra.
Por la calor.
Por la calor, exactamente. Por la calor. Yo diría de que si no tienen nada para importante, ¿no? Para salir a la calle, que no salgan, que se cuiden, porque hay muchas personas, ¿no? De que, ¿cómo se llama? Les da incluso hasta cáncer en la piel, ¿no? Hasta cáncer. No todas las personas tenemos el mismo metabolismo, ¿no? Fuerte.
The young females, they would prefer a blouse like this one up here that has a little strap on it because it's more fresh, you know.
Boys?
Boys mainly shorts, thin cloth shorts to be around, yes.
And I see you have 2 kids. How are you dealing with the heat with your kids?
Oh, when it comes to the kids and the heat, they want to be in the pool, they want to sleep in a room with air condition, or on Sunday they want to go down the river to take a swim, grill some chicken. So that's what they would like on a Sunday.
In terms of drinking water and, juices or drinks that keep you hydrated, how are you doing that? How are you with that?
Well, for the moment, as you can see, this is the 2nd liter of water that 3 of us have been drinking for this morning. So we're drinking a lot of water, and would give them from time to time some Gatorade or something like that to get themselves rehydrated, and a lot of fresh fruits as well.
The prognosis of heat stroke in patients is directly related to the degree of hyperthermia and its duration. Therefore, besides prevention, the most important feature in the treatment of heat stroke is rapid cooling. UNICEF estimates that nearly all the world's children, which is more than 2 billion, will eventually be exposed to high heat wave frequency by 2050. So, regardless of age, ethnicity, culture, or religion, following the advice of the professionals is beyond imperative, as it can save your life and the life of your loved ones. Elmer Cornejo, CTV3 News.
Coming up next, Guinea Grass RC Primary School wins the Bishops Cup Football Championship. Stay tuned.
I'm most pleased to report that the nation that we have been able to secure roughly $90 million for the construction of a new 150-bed modern national referral tertiary care hospital in Belize. Given the vulnerability of KHMH to hurricanes and floods, the strategic placement of this hospital in Babapan represents an important part of our climate resiliency building strategy in the provision of health care. Noting the increasing demands for primary, secondary, and tertiary healthcare across the country, our administration has focused heavily on providing the delivery of healthcare services to Belizeans. As such, since coming to office, we have consistently expanded the delivery of primary care services through NHI. As you may recall, that it is in this financial year that the entire district of Farinjoak is for the first time being brought in with NHI. Increasing access to up to 40,000 Arinjokenyans. The year before, with the same budget that the UDP was using in Corozal for a small portion of the district, We expanded the full coverage of NHI in the Corozal district. So presently, we have almost 270,000 people that is going to be covered.
During Friday's House meeting, Prime Minister John Briceño gave an extensive description of the soon-to-be operations for the state-controlled Bolido Gaming Group Limited. The new structure will see the establishment of a government-owned company, the Belize Government Lotteries Limited, BGLL. All lottery profits will be used to support NHI and the official charities fund. This move will potentially enable increasing funding for youth sports and education initiatives. BGLL will be managed by a board of directors, setting corporate management and oversight policies. Day-to-day management will be executed by a managing director, backed by an IT specialist, financial controller, administrator, customer service, marketing, and a quality assurance compliance manager. 4 master agents selected through a tendering process will be authorized to distribute Bolido, each representing a different region of the country. An essential part of BGLL's operation will be building a digital platform and establishing an extensive sales distribution network through these master agents. They will facilitate sales countrywide via sub-agents and electronic transactions. The second phase of digitalization will allow customers to purchase lottery tickets through mobile phones, ensuring convenience and security. But while the Prime Minister emphasized that the new structure aims to re-establish Bolido as a truly Belizean entity, properly administered for the benefit of Belizeans, the leader of the opposition, Shine Barrow, says the cancellation of Brad's contract will prove costly for taxpayers.
If you have an agreement that is legally binding, then you expose the Belizean taxpayers to litigation and to damages. So especially when you listen to those numbers, so that means that Brad's Bolido will be taking the government to court for 50 million Belize in annual revenues. So I'm even more discouraged and even more convinced that there should have been other mechanisms put in place to get a greater share. That was my position. I made that position very clear when the tax was instituted. I supported that, and I would support ways to get a greater share for the Belizean people. I get concerned when I hear about four entities. How are we going to decide who those 4 entities are? What the profit share is going to be with those entities. I hope that it is that we have learned from this contract that they're canceling, and that the government now will get, and the Belizean people will get the lion's share of any arrangement. So whatever master agents, as the Prime Minister described, the new model that they will use, whatever master agents are going to be taken on will not be getting 80%, 90% of the revenues, that they will be getting, the minority share, very, very small minority share of the revenues, and that will come to the government and the Belizean people. And we will see this investment in social development.
Brad's contract still had 7 years of legibility left. At the House on Friday, the PM also compared the sales figures reported under 2 years of the People's United Party to the preceding 10 years under the United Democratic Party. The PM highlighted an increase in sales from 18.7 million to 43.8 million upon requesting information from Brad's. This increase, he suggested, was due to the company fearing the loss of the contract if it didn't comply with what was asked of them. The PUP reported $125.6 million in sales, only $3 million less than the UDP reported over 10 years. Briceño attributed this increase in reported sales to the PUP's vigilance, resulting in revenues of $11.1 million to the government. A date for the resumption of Balidon lottery is yet to be announced. There was a huge celebration at the Guineagrass RC Primary School today after the girls' football team secured the championship of the Female Bishops Cup Nationals 2023. After an interesting 4 months of face-offs and intense training, the Guineagrass RC Primary School emerged winners. The young girls defeated their opponents one by one until their last face-off ended with 2-0. The match, which was played in Belmopan on Friday, confirmed all the hard work the team put into the sport.
We had been working since the beginning of the Bishop Cup in January. We began competing by zones, and from there on we had the district eliminations. We were successful at that, and then from there on we got to compete at Belmopan last week, Friday, May 19. At first it was against Sand Creek, second it was against Copper Bank, and then the Corozal District, and then finally we went against the school from Valley of Peace, Cayo District. And with God's help and the help of the girls, they work arduously. Teacher Melanie and myself would take out the girls for intense practice from 1:30 in the afternoon. We had as well the assistance of Miss Letitia Khan, who would take the girls to run and do other physical training with them after classes.
The children, they defeated the Cayo District at 2-0 at the second half. At the first half, we really saw that it was somewhat challenging, and we were thinking, now, are we going to go to penalties? Are we going to be defeated by the Cayo District and win the second place? But then eventually, when the children got off on the first time, we gathered them and we spoke to them and encouraged them that they can do it, and we believe in them, that we're going to bring back victory to Orange Rock.
Describe your feeling at the moment when you secured that second goal and you were satisfied that you had won the cup.
Well, it was so emotional. All the fans, the spectators that joined us right there at the time of the coaching, they came along, and we knew that we had it in a win, because there was only a few minutes remaining for the whistle to be blown and for us to be declared victorious.
Coach Elisa Isagire says the road to winning was not an easy one to travel, but the team never gave up.
The first thing that was like brought down the team a bit, and we thought that we were not going to make it, was that the other teacher who was the coach with me, she got injured on our first game. And from there on, with God's help and Teacher Melanie's help, she came along, and then we were able to work it out. And the girls at first that brought them down, they were unmotivated, and it was our first game. And they thought that they were not going to make it. At first they did not have resistance, so we had to try to bring the teamwork a lot with them, training with them. At first they had no discipline, but from there on they were able to come together as one team to work.
Of the team, Lizeme Hernandez was trophied the best goalkeeper, and Betsy Perez was recognized as the most valuable player.
Tell us about how you made sure that the persons who were trying to score into your net did not score. What did you do?
Save the ball.
Do you think that you would, or when you were playing, you thought that maybe they would have scored you?
Yes.
Now, how you feel about your trophy?
Good.
Is it the first time you have a trophy like this?
Yes. We work hard, because every 2:30 we go to the field to work, practice. We do our best to reach to there.
What was your hardest time during practice?
Well, sometimes I feel bad, because when I went to Belmopan injured, and I felt bad that I go there, and when I come here, I cannot help my team because I need to train with them.
Okay. Now about your trophy, tell us about that.
Well, I feel happy because I work hard for this. I think I am. With my team helps, I win this, because alone I cannot do this.
Your coaches, what do you want to tell them?
Well, I give thanks to to the two because they tell me everything. They support me in all. I give thanks to them.
This afternoon, the students and staff of the school paraded through the main roads of the village in celebration of their victory. Around 2018, you may remember the electric scooter boom in the USA. Customers flocked to store outlets to secure the cutest electric scooter for themselves. And in 2023, the trend is revamping in Belize and has reached the Department of Transport, which has sent out a press release that no doubt will be met by some resistance by owners of these bikes. The release, dated May 22nd, 2023, says that the department code advises all owners of electric motorcycles, scooters, that it is unlawful to operate such vehicles on any public road unless the vehicle has been registered and licensed, and the driver is in possession of a valid driver's license with the appropriate class to operate a motorcycle, unquote. It goes on to say that protective wear should be used at all times when using these electric motorcycles, and that persons under the age of 17 are prohibited from using them. The department seems to avoid prosecution for persons who own these electric motorcycles, and as such reminds the public of the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Act. Transport cautions that the misuse of these cycles can result in serious injuries or damage to property. According to Section 2 of the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Act, the words motorcycle, motor vehicle, and public road are defined as follows. First, motorcycle means a motor vehicle with less than 4 wheels and the weight of which on land does not exceed 800 pounds. Secondly, motor vehicles mean any mechanically propelled vehicle intended or adapted for use on roads. And lastly, public road means any road within a town and any road declared to be a public road by the minister by order, and any road maintained wholly or partly from public funds. The release continues saying that persons who import these electric motorcycles, scooters for commercial purposes must be in possession of a dealer's general license from the Department of Transport in order to sell. We tried reaching the Department of Transport in Belmopan for an interview, but our calls were futile. The present administration is serious about bringing politicians and others to answer in a court of law how they have obtained their wealth. The first step to that aim was made on Friday when the Civil Asset Recovery and Unexplained Wealth Bill was tabled at the House. This legislation will give the government of Belize, through the Financial Intelligence Unit, the authority to recover assets and wealth that persons acquire through unlawful means. This piece of law empowers the FIU to secure an unexplained wealth order where a suspicion arises. Once the order is acquired, the person or persons involved will need to come up with the relevant data and proof for their source of assets and wealth before the High Court.
Firstly, the Civil Recovery Authority would need to obtain a preliminary unexplained wealth order requiring an individual to file a declaration of wealth and appear before the High Court to answer questions. If the individual provides false or misleading information, it may amount to an offense. What was important here, Madam Speaker, is that we want to have the FIU the ability to be able to go after unexplained wealth and assets that were illegally taken. But at the same time, we have to ensure that we also protect the rights of individuals. Because as we said, in this country, we live by the principle that you're presumed innocent until found guilty. Initially, the way it was written in such a way that the director of the FIU could just seize your assets without you being able to do anything. And then you would have to try to find how you could defend yourself. So this, by making these changes, what we have done is now that you have to go to the High Court, the FIU, and then you go there, and then you can defend yourself before your assets is being able to be seized. So but we're also pointing out that individual also have to come clean, to provide evidence how he or she or the company received that assets or how they have the wealth that is in their possession. An application for the unexplained wealth order can be made by the Civil Recovery Authority following the preliminary unexplained wealth order procedure. Unexplained wealth orders have proven to be a powerful provision in tackling serious organized crime and corruption. Because we also know we have all of these drug people or quote-unquote drug lords within the country. And you know they don't work, but they're driving these fancy vehicles. So this will give you the ability to pull them in. And then they would have to explain how they have their wealth, what work they do, what is their investments.
The Civil Asset Recovery and Unexplained Wealth Bill was widely welcomed by parliamentarians on both sides of the floor.
No politician should come into politics to become wealthy.
Mentioned the Civil Asset Recovery and Unexplained Wealth Bill is intended to be a step forward in combating corruption among persons in authority by subjecting them to an examination of means and assets before the High Court by the Financial Intelligence Unit (FIU). In supporting the bill, leader of the opposition, Moses Shine Barrow, told reporters that he hoped it will not be used as a stick over the back of the United Democratic Party, while reiterating that entering politics is about service to country, not self.
No politician should come into politics to become wealthy. You come into politics to advocate on behalf of the people that elected you, to implement policies and to serve. It should be all about public administration. It certainly should not be about wealth. So I have absolutely no difficulty with this bill. I hope that it is retroactive. I hope that we can look, since the PUP always likes to look backwards, I hope we can go beyond 13 years and so that it can be a bipartisan bill and it's not a political bill that seeks to go after politicians in the opposition, but all politicians that cannot explain the source of wealth and assets that they have amassed since becoming elected members of the House.
Dengue is a viral infection that spreads from the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes to people. It is more common in tropical and subtropical climates, and though it is a topic widely spoken of, the viral infection persists in our midst and has prompted the Ministry of Health and Wellness under the Vector Control Unit to spring into action. Today, members of the Vector Control sat on our Despiertabilis couch to speak about the pressing matters since we have seen a spike in cases recently in Orange Walk.
Las noticias están diciendo que a los hermanos vecinos de México tienen dengue.
Okay.
Ahí hay bastante dengue ahorita por el momento. Y nosotros beliceños vamos a pasear ahí. Y ahí lo traemos. No lo puedo decir de allá, puede venir, pero Guatemala también tiene, Salvador, todo allá tiene dengue, pero como les digo, varios de nosotros vamos a pasear en diferentes países y a veces el mosquito los pica y no notamos y cuando llegamos acá 2 semanas ya comenzamos a presentar síntomas. Y ese es el dengue. Esa es una buena pregunta. Este mosquito, a chupar sangre, él va a descansar porque no puede volar muy lejos porque ya está lleno. Él va en la oscuridad de la esquina de la casa o donde está fresco. Descansa un rato donde él piensa que está salvo, que nadie lo puede ver, nadie lo va a matar. Cuando él siente que este mosquito ya puede volar, él sale afuera a buscar depósitos con agua, principalmente como llantas, latas, botellas, cáscaras de coco, toda cosa que pueda guardar agua. Por ejemplo, si usted tiene una llanta en su patio, este mosquito a chupar sangre, él va a depositar su huevecillo en esa llanta. Y para que mire que este mosquito es muy inteligente, que este mosquito no deposita todos sus huevecillos en una llanta. Él va, porque un mosquito ova hasta 100 a 120 huevecillos, un hembra mosquito. Así que imagínense, miles de mosquitos que estén robando, ¿cuántos mosquitos tenemos? Por el momento tenemos casos de dengue que está saliendo todos los días, tenemos 2, 3, 4 casos de dengue todos los días en diferentes aldeas, incluyendo el pueblo también. Y por eso estamos aquí para mandar estos mensajes que por favor cooperen con nosotros y mantengan el patio limpio, porque solo nosotros no podemos. Nosotros vamos a casa por casa, chequear los patios y miramos llanta, miramos tambos destapados, lo tratamos, le ponemos unas pastillas adentro para que si ese mosquito va y deposita sus huevos ahí, no brotan los mosquitos.
Okay.
Pero al terminar, si no se bota o no se destruye ese contenido como una llanta, ya después de 3 meses ya no trabaja la pastilla.
Okay.
Así que puede brotar más mosquitos ahí.
Most people who get dengue won't have symptoms, but for those that do, the most common symptoms are high fever, headache, body aches, nausea, and rash. Most will also get better in 1 or 2 weeks, while in extreme cases, some people develop severe dengue and may need medical attention. In severe cases, dengue can be fatal. The Ministry of Health recognizes the need to work in conjunction with the public to better combat the disease.
Sí, tenemos 2, 3, 4, pero ahora estamos viendo un aumento más, 3 veces doble de los otros meses pasados. Y es por eso que estamos aquí para mandar este mensaje que por favor cooperen con nosotros, los ayuden porque nosotros solos no podemos, necesitamos ayuda de ustedes allá afuera que cooperen con nosotros. ¿Cómo los pueden ayudar? Mantener sus patios limpios, destruir todo que pueda aguantar agua. Si mira el vehículo pasando, fumigando en las calles, por favor permitan que abran sus puertas para que así lo puedan fumigar. Así todo el veneno que entra adentro, ese mosquito se muere. Hay muchos que dicen, esta cosa huele mal. Es cierto, pero es cierto, pero tenemos que hacerlo para destruir esos mosquitos, si no los va a matar a los otros.
Dengue is treated with pain medicine as there is no specific treatment currently. Individuals who are infected for the second time are at greater risk of severe dengue. Severe dengue symptoms often come after the fever has gone away. Preventing mosquito bites is the best way to avoid getting dengue. However, the symptoms of dengue are oftentimes similar to other conditions, for example, COVID-19. It is for this reason that visiting your medical doctor is important to determine your health status.
Persona y sabe que tiene el dengue, es importante que no vaya a tomar cualquier medicamento, principalmente la aspirina. Esa aspirina es malísimo si usted tiene dengue. Esa aspirina puede causar la muerte, que puede causar el dengue hemorrágico, que puede desangrar por dentro y puede desangrar por fuera.
Sí.
Esta enfermedad. Así que cuando usted tiene dengue, que ya le di, y el doctor ya dijo que usted tiene dengue, mejor tomar solo Tylenol. Solo Tylenol hay que tomar cuando tiene dengue.
Ahora, hace 2 años, 3 años teníamos el COVID, ¿no?
Sí.
Mucha gente se confundió los síntomas con el dengue, igualmente con el COVID, ya que son similares. Pues ahora no debemos de descartar que aún siempre tenemos el COVID. Y entonces, como dijo mi compañero, hay gentes con tos, ¿no? Entonces, pues la tos causa dolor en la garganta y se puede causar la calentura. Es por eso que mucha gente a veces cuando se va a hacer el examen le sale que tiene dengue, ¿no? A veces muestra que tuvo dengue anteriormente, ¿no? Ese es el IgG. Entonces puede ser que la persona tuvo dengue semanas atrás, meses atrás o años atrás. Eso es lo que estamos viendo ahorita. Cuando andamos allá afuera y encontramos pacientes con dengue, lo que hacemos nosotros, le tomamos una muestra de sangre. Ya la muestra de sangre cuando tomamos en el dedito, esa es para malaria. La malaria, pues hace como 2014 no tenemos ningún caso.
Sí, exacto.
Entonces un dato muy importante es que Belice ya se va a certificar como malaria free.
Free, exacto.
Entonces eso es algo muy importante para nosotros, especialmente para nuestro país. Creo que El Salvador es el único país que ha certificado malaria free.
Ya del dengue, pues eso tiene que ir en el laboratorio privado o en el hospital para que le hagan un análisis de sangre por la vena.
Of note is that for people with severe dengue, hospitalization is often needed. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Tuesday, May 23rd, here on CTV3 and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/ctv3belizenews or our YouTube channel at CTV3 News BZ. Remember to wash your hands and remain safe. From all of us here at CTV3 News, thank you for watching and listening.